In today's episode, we are going to be predicting the rest of the season. We have got 6 races and 3 sprints left to go this year. We've got a championship battle on our hands. None of us thought we would have one at the beginning of the year, and here we are. So we are going to go through each and every remaining sprint race and Grand Prix, give you our predictions for what we think is going to happen, and who we think will come away with the 2024 Drivers and Constructors Championship. You ready to get started, Brandon?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Jumping in with the United States Grand Prix, which is a sprint weekend. On sprint pole, I've got Charles Leclerc, but I think it will be Lando Norris who wins the sprint. But never fear, because Charles Leclerc will take pole for the main race as well. But that will be won by Max Verstappen. I think Red Bull are going to figure some things out. I think they've been figuring some things out. They're supposedly bringing a flexible front wing to the United States Grand Prix because that has been deemed legal now. And so I think Red Bull going to get back on the right track, and I think Max Verstappen will get back on the top step of the podium.
I think that Lando Norris is going to sweep the sprint with both the pole and the win. And then I've got Oscar Piastri on pole and Lando Norris winning the Grand Prix. So, I don't know. I'm hoping that McLaren has a big weekend. If my predictions come true, they will. And that would mean probably an increased lead in the constructors and maybe a smaller gap in the drivers for Lando.
After Austin, we will go to Mexico for the Mexico City Grand Prix. I think Lando Norris will take pole at Mexico, but I think Max Verstappen will win that race as well. Back-to-back wins for Max Verstappen after this fall break. It's really hard for me to pick against Max Verstappen at Mexico. It's one of his best tracks. It's traditionally been one of Red Bull's best tracks. And so I think we're going to see back-to-back wins for Max Verstappen coming out of the break.
I agree with that. I think Max Verstappen is also going to win the race, but I've got Oscar Piastri on pole. I think McLaren has been really strong in qualifying, so I expect them to continue to be really strong. And Oscar's done really well so far this season in both qualifying and in race pace. But yeah, I totally agree. I think Red Bull will start to figure some things out. I think Max Verstappen will win in Mexico. I think Sergio might have a good weekend too. He's never won the race, but he's had decent weekends in Mexico, a couple podiums. So it's his home race. He always seems to put things together in his home race. So we'll see. But yeah, Red Bull is traditionally really strong in Mexico. So
then we would go to Brazil for the Brazilian Grand Prix, another sprint weekend. We have really crammed these sprint races in the year. We haven't had a sprint race since Austria, which was in like July, and now we've got 3 of them in the last month and a half of the year. But whatever, we don't make the Formula One calendar. But I think Lando Norris will take sprint pole and win the sprint race in Brazil before Oscar Piastri takes pole for the main race and Lando Norris wins the main race.
I think Charles Leclerc is going to get sprint pole. I think Oscar Piastri, I'm predicting him to win the sprint, and then Lewis Hamilton to get pole for the main Grand Prix. Mercedes has done well at Brazil in the recent past. In the last 10 years, it seems like they've done consistently really, really well in Brazil. And then I'm predicting Oscar Piastri to win the main Grand Prix.
But after Brazil, we would go to Las Vegas, and I'm predicting a Ferrari heavy weekend. I think Carlos Sainz will qualify on pole. It's towards the end of his Ferrari career, so I think he will go ahead and crank out one more good performance for them and put it on pole. He was very strong here last year. He had a shot at pole last year, but of course had that grid penalty, so was really out of it from the get-go. I still don't think that penalty was fair, but it is what it is. I think he will redeem himself and get pole this year, and then I think Charles Leclerc will win the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a Charles Leclerc sweep of the weekend, both pole position and the race win. He, performs really well on some street tracks, and I think Vegas is no exception to that. I think that Ferrari will have a very strong weekend. They were really strong there last year, like you said, and I think Charles will get one more win before the end of the season.
Then we would go to Qatar a little bit later in the year, so hopefully we don't have any heat and health concerns for the drivers. It's another sprint weekend, the last one of the year. I think Lando Norris will take sprint pole, but George Russell will win the sprint. Mercedes was fairly quick at Qatar last year. Obviously, they qualified towards the front, and then Lewis Hamilton ensured that they didn't have a good weekend after taking out himself and his teammate at the first corner. But George Russell was in contention for the sprint win last year, and so I think with that car again being improved to where it was last year and Red Bull not being as dominant, I think there is a chance for George Russell or Lewis Hamilton, but I'm going to predict George Russell to take home a sprint win in Qatar before Lando Norris takes pole for the main race and goes on to win the Grand Prix on Sunday.
I've got Oscar Piastri on sprint pole and Lando taking the win. I think this will be kind of one of those situations where maybe Oscar takes pole, but they qualify 1-2, and obviously we're getting really close to the end of the season, and so Oscar has to let Lando through to take the sprint win. And then I've got Lando on pole, but I've got Max winning. I think towards the end of the season, these last two races, I think Max is really just going to kind of put it together, slam the door shut. I don't know where that Red Bull will be, but I don't think it's going to be any worse than where it is now, or where it was at the end of the last race. So I think Max is going to slam the door shut in Qatar. I don't know if he'll seal the championship mathematically there with the win.
And then we would head to Abu Dhabi for the finale of the 2024 Formula One season. Hopefully we still have a title fight on our hand. I think Lando Norris will qualify on pole. It's just hard for me to predict against that McLaren in qualifying right now. But I do think Max Verstappen will wrap up the year with a victory. We've seen Max Verstappen win at Abu Dhabi before that Red Bull was dominant before. I think of 2020. He sealed his first championship there in 2021. I think he'll seal his fourth championship there. And I think Max Verstappen will win the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Lando will get pole, maybe kind of keep some hope alive. I don't know if the championship will be possible there, but maybe win in a fastest lap would, tie him or something like that. But and I think Max will win the race. I totally agree with you. Red Bull's been really strong in Abu Dhabi for a long time, and it's Max always seems to find a way to win when he really, really needs it.
Before we get out of here, Brandon, what are your parting podium thoughts?
Parting podium thoughts. I'm excited for Austin. I'm excited for the content that we're going to continue to put out. Excited for the end of the season. I think it's going to be great. I think we're going to have an awesome lineup of content and an awesome time putting that together for you guys. So thank you. We really appreciate you, and I'm just grateful to be here and looking forward to the next one.
Yep, we have got an awesome end to the year coming up, and Brandon is correct. We're just super thankful for you guys, everyone who watches or listens to our content. We appreciate it very much. But that is all we have got for this episode of the PodiumPushers podcast. Thank you for watching or listening wherever you are. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, do all of the things you know to do. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, all of the places. We are there and would truly appreciate your support. We will see you in the next one.
See ya.